From Timcast News, Mr. Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse is talking to RFK and complaining.
Americans are going to need to hear a clear and trustworthy recantation of what you have said on vaccinations, including a promise from you never to say vaccines aren't medically safe when they in fact are, and making indisputably clear that you support mandatory vaccinations against diseases where that will keep people safe. You're in that hole pretty deep. Americans are going to need to hear a clear...
Look, man, I'm very pro the polio vaccine. I think
sense.
that's a
I'm glad you are, Phil.
There was literally a truck outside today in front of the hearing. It said, "Make polio great again." It was an anti-RFK truck.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and that was what it said.
I mean,
I don't know how I feel about the polio vaccine. I have no idea.
no
I have no
polio.
idea what's in it. I have no idea. I'm just willing to admit that.
I'm considering the
And
fact...
there's been that erosion of trust. What can you expect?
Well, I do think that, so it's valid to be suspicious and of the NIH or whatever. Like that's fair enough, right? Because they've been so irresponsible when it comes to messaging the American people. That's totally legitimate.
40 blank pages.
Yeah, exactly. Just like,
There were one or two that had words on it.
Oh yeah.
But the point being, it is legitimate to be, skeptical of what they say. But if you look at the history of like the polio vaccine, you look at what America and the world was like, what polio was doing before the polio vaccine, and then you look at what was happening, say, from when the polio vaccine started being given to everyone, which is, I'm not sure when. Can you look that up? Find out when the polio vaccine was?
Yes, sir.
When the polio vaccine began to be administered to say 2000, right? Because that's prior to us getting this kind of weird, clearly getting this kind of weird situation where we should be skeptical of them.
1955, it says, began 1955 with Jonas Salk's inactivated the polio vaccine in 1955.
So 45 years it was given, and you didn't see polio. And other than the fact that polio was gone, you didn't see the massive upswing in autism that we do. Like that's a new thing, right? That's not in the past. In the past 50 years, that was in the past 20 or so years when you see a significant increase of autism and stuff like that. So there are vaccines that I think that are clearly a benefit, right? Polio, I think that the measles vaccine,
Chickenpox.
well, I didn't get a chickenpox vaccine.
I'm sorry, not the chickenpox, the deadly one,
Smallpox,
Tetanus.
tetanus.
But
Those.
who gets to decide that?
I honestly,
You know what? Like, what does it matter what any of us emotionally feel about a vaccine at this table? Like, what does our feelings don't matter. It only matters that we get to choose.
So yeah, I agree that you should be able to choose, but and also I'm not one for like mandatory going to public schools. But I do think it's fine if public schools are like, if your kids don't have these vaccinations, you have to homeschool them. But I'm an advocate of homeschooling anyways.
Right.
So it's not like, to me, that's not a punishment. I'm not like, oh, well, you can't hang out with us. It's like, look, man, I don't want my kids hanging out with you anyways. But, I'm going to give my kids, vaccines like polio vaccine and the
1984 protocol.
Yeah.
All vaccines before 1984.
That's not a bad
That's definitely a thing out there.
Are we at like 40 now? Like back in the day, I don't know how many I got. I was a young baby at the time, but now I feel like it's tripled and doubled, or doubled, tripled, quadrupled.
I'm not sure the dates.
You know
I
what?
can't say.
You guys
But
have kids?
Negative, sir.
I don't.
So with our kids, it's a delayed schedule.
okay.
Right? Pre-1984, delayed schedule. And then it's just like, we just do the stuff that works, and we don't do it all at once when they're tiny little babies. You just take your time and get them up to speed. But we're anti-vaxxers because we think that way.
I do think that parents should have the final say. I don't think that it should be something that the state.
Not the only say, not the final say. The
only
say.
Yeah.
Parents get the only say.
Okay.
Not the final say. No one else gets a say. How about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Do you believe that with transgenders?
I think that's
children?
of course
They're not really transgender.
No.
Well, I'm just saying, you like only that parents get the only
That's not
say.
health
I'm just throwing it out there.
That's
All right.
not health care.
We'll get to that.
We will get to
We'll
that.
talk to that. There'll be considerably less sparring about that one. But I do think that there are a lot of vaccines that are beneficial. That being said, I do think that the attempts by Mr. Whitehouse here to bully RFK into essentially repeating the mantra that he wants, especially considering I think that it's unlikely that Mr. Whitehouse is going to vote for RFK anyways. Any of the people that gave RFK a hard time today, that really grilled him, they've already made up their minds.
Oh, yeah.
This is not about convincing them of anything. This is not about actually, getting them to the point where they say, maybe I would vote for RFK. This is all about grandstanding and about fundraising and about showing their DNC bona fides.
Well, this is like so trite to say, but science is like a religion to them. And like vaccines are a sacrament in their religion. So that's why it's this big monolithic good thing that we have to celebrate because it's a ritual.
Is it really trite? Do you think it's trite?
It is trite to say that it's trite to say that like, whoa, this is like a religion or like science is like a religion. But it's true.
Even with what he said, you can debunk it immediately with yellow fever vaccine. Like yellow fever vaccine is not safe for everyone. They don't give it to old people. They don't give it to babies. They don't give it to people who are immunocompromised because it could actually give you yellow fever and cause some side effects. So it's like just the statement he said is not true. There are vaccines that have side effects and they're known and documented.
Yeah. If I understand correctly, all vaccines have possible
side effect. They're not perfectly safe.
So, not that again, this is not to say that we shouldn't have them, but to say that, say that they're all dangerous or whatever, that's not true. But to say that the point is, he's looking for a confirmation or he's looking for RFK to repeat the lines that he wants him to say. And so that's not, like I said, they're not looking for RFK to say anything. They're not looking for RFK to say anything that's going to convince them. They're looking for RFK to say what they want to hear.
Do you know why I think they're wanting him to hear it? Because if they get him to say something that the Democrats agree with, it could cause a few Republicans to fall through the cracks, right? So if they can get him to say something, they know people that are already edgy on him on the Republican side, they may drop their votes, which then gets him unconfirmed, which they look like a hero at that point. You know what I mean? It's grandstanding, but it's also strategy.
And I don't know why you're having this this hearing and they don't let him talk ever. All they do is just yell at him the whole freaking time. Like, don't you want to get questions? Don't you want answers for the questions you're asking instead of just talking for 5 minutes? And then
they're like, I just think it's funny how.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's another thing.
I mean, we can go on and to this point, right? We can go on and talk about how
that was my plan.
What?
That was my plan.
Yeah, Nancy Mace was tweeted, speaking of shills, Senator Warren raked in $5.2 million from Big Pharma and the medical industrial complex. We can listen to what
let's do a quick
this
count
interaction here, and you'll see all she does.
I know, I heard you right away. I was like,
all she does is scream and yell. So take a listen to this.
Let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence, those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits, so that what you do as secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here.
Boy, Pfizer got their money's worth out of it.
Wait, I stopped listening. Can you like recap what she even said? I stopped listening because her voice is just so insufferable.
The long, like RFK's understanding of it was he was looking for he was under the impression that she was saying you're commit to not suing pharmaceutical companies.
Got it.
But pharmaceutical companies make a whole lot more than just vaccines.
Yes.
They make all kinds of drugs. And they might end up putting out look, there was a time when they had to change how Tylenol was sold because someone put cyanide in Tylenol caplets. Remember back in the day?
Wait, whoa.
Right, that old. That's a legitimate lawsuit. So you can't say, oh, this kind of company is beyond is above repercussions or legislation or whatever, because those kind of things can happen. Like when you're making things that people ingest, whether it be food or drugs or whatever, like there can be mistakes and people can be hurt. And you can't promise that you're not going to have some kind of ramifications for them messing up.
Yeah, no one should be protected when they cause damages to the United States citizen of having preemptive, no repercussions. Like, it's just not a thing that should exist.
It's very un-American.
Very
un-American. If you're just going to let people do what they want, have their own way, and no repercussions for any illegal actions they do.
Why would they fall into any line of?
They would, yeah, exactly. They can do whatever they want.
There's no punishment.
She's a ridiculous human being. She really is. She sounded like she was about to burst into tears.
She was.
She always does.
No, that wasn't the question. And this student council as like I can't get over the affect that she puts on. It's like so student council. Like
People
she
voted
was
for
so the class president in 7th grade and like held on to that forever.
She used to be a Republican.
What?
And she
When was that?
This is probably 15 or so years ago. She was initially elected as a Republican, and I think she was an economics professor, and she had reasonable economics opinions. Very run of the mill. They were not the new modern monetary theory based ideas that she'll run with now. She had very reasonable opinions. You can hear Ben Shapiro talks about it a lot. He'll like, whenever her name comes up, he's like, she used to be a reasonable person that I could actually find agreement with. Now she's just a complete and total shill. But
you have to be in the Democrat Party now. You have to lockstep. There's no room for any disagreement anymore.
Dude, their brains are nuts.
Yeah.
People just they
Their brains are
something
nuts.
happened to them. These people, if she was a Republican, something happened to them, and they just totally forgot common sense and went to crazy world.
Her brain is just a squirrel using a control panel.
But so for some context about that exchange, Senator Warren takes $1.6 million from hospitals and nursing homes. She got $644,000 from miscellaneous health organizations, and then she got $625,000 from pharmaceutical health and health products. So look, she's
You're not number 20, bro.
Yeah.
Health services, HMO.
Oh yeah, there's another $500,000. So clearly, she's got some motivation to protect the big business that has helped her to achieve the position that she has. So you can take that kind of exchange with a grain of salt, in my opinion, because the whole point is, hey, I need to protect my friends in industry, the people that have helped me to retain my position as a senator from Massachusetts, and it's not about any of the things that she brought up. It's all about trying to protect those businesses.
I really want a law to pass that when they broadcast these, that when a senator's on screen, their top 3 donors' logos have to be on the screen with them. How crazy would that be? She comes up and it's like Pfizer, Moderna. Like, that would change the game.
Gotta be
where they take money from.
It's got to be suits like NASCAR.
I literally posted a picture of her, my ex of her in a NASCAR suit that says Pfizer on it.
Yeah.
Because that would change who they take money from if they had to be blasted with it every time they do a confirmation hearing.
Even what Nancy Mace did here, you know, I got my qualms with her, but just having that whole open secrets, God bless open secrets, 'cause they do good work.
We don't have any qualms with Nancy Mace. She came here.
I mean, we don't.
What?
I'm not we as well.
Destiny has been here.
Yeah.
Well, Destiny doesn't come back. Destiny
I
doesn't
think
come
there
back.
are qualms.
I mean,
I
I got no beef, Nancy. I'm sorry. I'm just saying some things we don't agree on. People don't agree with everything on everyone.
Nancy will be okay.
Yeah, it's just fine. But that'd be even this having open secrets up next to them when they're doing it. It's a good idea.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.